we're back. And in the studio with us this morning, this morning is Krista Morrison, Home Support Clinical Manager. And Krista has brought with her, and I hope I pronounce it right now, Sana Giallo, who is new to Home Support, and Krista will introduce her. I'm going to let you introduce her, Krista.
Yeah.
Welcome, both of you.
Yeah, thank you. Sana has been with us for about 6 months. About 6 months.
Wow,
She's
not
been
that new, 6 months.
Yeah, about 6 months, and she has actually been one of the field nurses for Home Support. So she's not new to the community. Well, she is a little bit, but she has been promoted into the clinical manager position. So we do welcome her.
Yes.
She's got a wealth of knowledge that she can talk about to introduce herself.
First time on Channel 6, maybe? Sana?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
good.
So we thought we'd bring her along
Sure.
today so she could kind of introduce herself. So the community probably has really seen her out there a lot already. But in a new position, we wanted to bring her on Channel 6 to welcome her.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Sana?
All right, my name is Sana Giallo. I am originally from Gambia in West Africa.
I'm sorry?
Gambia.
Gambia. Okay.
Yes, in West Africa.
See,
And
see, this is a Ghana shirt.
Right.
You
I
recognize
see that,
it.
yes. And I've lived in the U.S. for almost coming to 20 years now. I started my career at Arlington Hospital, Virginia Hospital Center, and I started as a CNA, then an LPN, and then worked my way up to an RN. And I've worked with Virginia Hospital Center for over 15 years.
Yes.
Then I decided to move to Green Spring
Sure.
as a nurse and now a clinical manager.
Yeah, good. Very good. Well, yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, Krista, you have some updates, I suppose, of some sort?
Yeah, sure. I thought maybe today we could talk about something that I don't think we've talked about yet, is the selection of our aides. Yesterday I was out in the home, and one of the concerns from the resident was she was wondering how much orientation the aides had. And that is something that we don't talk about a lot. It's like behind the scenes. But over the last year, we've become more selective. And what that means is once they come in, they've always had to take a test prior to even meeting with us or interviewing us. So there is a 50-question test that they take prior to us interviewing them. If they do not pass that at 80%, then we don't interview. And a lot of the reasons they do that is we want to make sure when they go into the home, they're able to look at care plans and be able to decipher information, comprehend information, because not only knowledge, I mean, when you think of an exam or a test you got to take prior to an interview or any test, you're thinking knowledge. Some of it is knowledge, and some of it is just actually making sure they're able to comprehend information so they're able to carry out their tasks that they need to do in the home. So that is the first part of that process. The second part is actually sitting down and interviewing with us. And in that, one of the first things we're now talking about is their availability. Because one of our biggest barriers in home support, if anyone has it, is continuity of care. So we've had a peak. We have a lot of growth in the last year, something we were prepared for but not prepared for since it was pretty significant. So what we're trying to do is hire aides that actually have more availability to us. So we were hiring aides that maybe work 1 day a week, every other weekend. There were some people we were hiring for every weekend. But we've found out with trying to meet the residents' need of continuity of care, we're trying to hire aides only if they're able to give us 3 days a week and every other weekend.
Yeah.
And that's difficult because a lot of aides who come to us are PRN, okay, and they're looking for additional hours. So that additional hours may be 1 day a week that they can allow. A lot of them are going to school, so they have another job, they're going to school, and so we've really had to make that selection meeting our business needs.
Sure.
Instead of just trying to find staff to work when they're available.
Yes.
So in that process, the next part of the interview process, before we even get into the formality questions, is actually saying, how available are you to us? And if they're saying 1 to 2 days a week, we just end that conversation. And they really want to work for Green Springs. Green Springs has a good reputation. They really want to come here and work more hours. You know, they are really, I think CNAs, what I've learned over the last 2 years of really managing a large workforce, is that they do have that caring and compassion, which is so nice to see, and they really want to work here. They know this is a good place to work.
Yes.
So with that being said, we'll sit down and we start the interview process, and it's some of formality questions, knowledge-wise, you know, making sure that they do have the knowledge. We do not hire them unless they already have a CNA. They've been a CNA for 1 year. Okay, so they have to have some long-term care experience before they come to us, because a lot of our clients are independent living. So they really got to be, you know, they're the only eyes in the home, so they really have to have some experience. So with that being said, we kind of get into the formality questions. Some of them are, I should have thought about this, but if a client's at false risk, you know, what precautionary measures do you take? So there's some knowledge questions. Then it's some caring and compassion questions. You know, since you've been a CNA in long-term care, tell us something special you've done for a resident. And it's amazing how that question can bring out the genuine, or the concern or the caring, or they struggle with it. So we really do try to zero our formality questions in for different aspects and categories of what's needed. And then at that point, once we think, okay, they have availability, they've passed their test, okay, the next part is making sure that they are going to meet our needs. So a lot of those are formality questions. If they have additional jobs, are they going to be able to do the orientation? Okay, there is 5 days of orientation, and that was another concern we had from the resident yesterday, is she was feeling that they had no orientation. So they spend the first day in new employee orientation, that's campus-wide, for half a day, and we go over and we pick them up, and then we pretty much open our home support orientation to them in the afternoon. The second day of orientation is pretty much everything about home support, you know, going over policies, how do you work the telephony in the homes, how they clock in and clock out. Also, we're not teaching them how to be a CNA, but we're trying to make sure that they're familiar and feel very comfortable with being in the Green Springs, because it's a new environment. We also explain to them the different phases, the different levels that we have here at Green Springs. And some of them come from long-term care, so they'll be comfortable working in long-term care. Some of them come from ALF. So they usually feel very comfortable in those areas, but when they come to us, they think they're going to be in the apartment setting all the time, you know, in independent living. So we do talk about that. We do explain to them there's around 2,000 residents here on campus. There is a lot of walking. We will bring out dissatisfiers. I always say dissatisfiers when you interview, but you want to make sure that it's fitting for them as well as us. And when you sit back and say there's a lot of walking, people don't realize there's
a lot of walking.
Sometimes people come back and say, you said there was a lot of walking. You know, so with that being said, you know, there's challenges they have, and that raises another concern that clients have. They frequently are late, and it is because of the walking. So when you bring that up in the interview, you want them to know it's not a leisurely walk. You are walking fast. Sometimes you'll probably see even some of our aides with the green smocks on pretty much running, you know, to the next spot. Hopefully we can improve that over the next year. But with that being said, you really want them to identify if there's any walking limitations you have. This will not be the job for you. You know?
Yes.
It definitely will be a job for you. Another dissatisfier is arriving on campus. So it's not a job that you can arrive 10 or 15 minutes ahead of time. So I say that in the interview. It's not some job that you can, if you're used to sliding in 10 or 15 minutes ahead of time, this is not the job for you. You know, you need to get around on campus. You need to be prepared for work. If you have a home situation where you call in frequently, this is not the job for you. So, you know, there's expectations that are really laid out there in the interview so that they know that we are, I feel, a higher caliber sometimes, not compared to long-term care or other areas. It's just I want them to be sure that once they take this job, that they like it. You know, they'll come, they'll stay, and they'll be dedicated to us.
Sure.
But there is 2 days of classroom orientation, and then the next 3 days they will actually work with a preceptor out in the home on the shift that they're willing or you know is able to work. If they work the night shift, we ask them to work the evening shift or daytime shift so they can figure out not only how to navigate the Green Springs, get from one place to another, but also that's when you're going to learn more about Green Springs. You know, going into the home, spending 8 hours is maybe something new to them, but they can probably do that quicker than not knowing what the resources are. If they get lost, if things happen, who are your resources? So we do spend a good 5 days of orientation with them. After that, we try to meet with them once, either meet or give them a phone call once a month to make sure that we're following up. You know, are there questions? We don't want them quitting. You know, we want them to continue to stay with us. So it's kind of a long process. We really want to retain them once they get here.
Sure.
We want to be able to answer their questions. We want the residents to end up liking them, embracing them, which a lot of them do. And like I say, it's a lot easier than I thought it would ever be. You know, being in this position, I really do enjoy it. And I do think the aides really do an excellent job.
So there's an extensive vetting. I get this. This is what I get. The bottom line is a lot of vetting here.
It is.
You know, residents get potential residents. They get interviewed by a social worker before we come in here. I remember the social worker asked me, "Who is the president?" And I said, "Wendell Wilkie." She didn't think that was the least bit funny. And I'm darn lucky to be here. I darn near flunked the test. I've had an aide, a medical aide, since early June. She is an independent contractor. And one of the things, and I've met many of the others, also independent. One of the things about Jane is she, you know that it's the same aide who shows up every single day. So you have a scheduling problem and a workload problem. And,
And the scheduling problem, to talk a little bit about that, is the private duty aides do 3 hours, some of them, most of them do 4 hours at a time. You don't have a client for 1 hour. You don't have a client for 2 hours in the private duty sector. And the reason for that is it is a scheduling nightmare.
Yeah, sure.
And that is what we meet the residents' need, because lots of times they need a medication reminder, help someone to get breakfast, and off they go. We had somebody yesterday said, we just need somebody to come in and remind meds and take their shoes and socks off at nighttime. Now, we want to meet those resident needs, and that's how we can do that. But because we do that, that inhibits us from doing the continuity that we need.
Sure.
Now, we really have worked hard at that, and it has been a challenge, and the residents know it.
Sure.
And that is why they're going out, you know, to other, and so we really do want to figure that aspect out. Some of the communities have stopped the 1 hour. Communities in Erickson have stopped the 1 hour visits because of that. But there's a lot of residents who need that. That's what they need. Medication reminder once a day, twice a day.
Keep the meds straight.
Yes, absolutely.
Krista, and Santa, we've run out of time here, and I thank you, Krista, for coming, and I thank you for bringing Sana.
Yes.
And you'll be back, I'll bet.
Yeah.